Good morning, everyone. So today we'll see about the physiological actions, regulation, and the disorders of the hormones secreted by the thyroid gland. So before going to the functions, just we'll see about the introduction about the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is an endocrine gland which is situated at the root of the neck on either side of the trachea. So endocrine meaning it is a ductless gland. So the glands that secrete the chemical substances called hormones, which is directly released into the bloodstream. So the thyroid is an endocrine gland which is located on either side of the trachea. It consists of two lobes, right and left lobe, and the central constricted portion is termed as isthmus. It's a butterfly-shaped organ, and this is located just below the thyroid cartilage. So the isthmus lies between second to fourth tracheal cartilage. It weighs about 20 to 40 grams in adults, and the thyroid gland size is larger in females when compared to males, and it is highly vascularized. So the main function increases slightly during pregnancy and lactation, but it decreases during menopause. So let us see about the hormones which are secreted by the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland secretes the three hormones. T4 is also known as thyroxine or tetraiodothyronine, T3 or triiodothyronine, and calcitonin. So let us say about the histological structure. So this picture consists of the structure. Each lobe of the thyroid gland contains several hollow spherical structures called follicles, which are the functional units of the thyroid gland. So these follicle cells are interposed between the cell. There is a cell called C cells, which is responsible for the secretion of calcitonin. So each follicle is filled with a thick sticky substance called colloid. So the major constituent of this colloid is a large glycoprotein called thyroglobulin. So unlike other endocrine glands which secrete their hormones once they are produced, but the thyroid gland stores the extra amount of thyroid hormones in the colloid until they are necessary by the body. So for the synthesis of thyroid hormones, there are two essential factors. One is tyrosine and another one is iodine. So the tyrosine is present in the form of thyroglobulin, but the iodine comes from the dietary source. So both these substances are taken up by the blood and help for the synthesis of thyroid hormones. Now we'll see about the functions of thyroid hormone. So the first action on basal metabolic rate. Thyroxine increases the basal metabolic rate. The action that increases the basal metabolic rate is termed as calorigenic action. So if the secretion increases, it is termed as hyperthyroidism, and if the secretion decreases, it is hypothyroidism. So in case of hyperthyroidism, BMR increases by about 60 to 100% above the normal level, but in case of hypothyroidism, it falls by 20 to 40% below the normal level. Action on protein metabolism. So this thyroid hormones helps for the synthesis of proteins by following ways. One is by increasing the translation of RNA. So the ribosomes are essential for protein synthesis by increasing the transcription of DNA to RNA, and by the activity of mitochondria as well as cellular enzymes. The next is action on carbohydrate metabolism. So this increases the action on carbohydrate metabolism. It increases the absorption of glucose, the byproduct of carbohydrate, from the gastrointestinal tract, as well as it enhances the glucose uptake by the cells. And it also increases the breakdown of glycogen into glucose. Glycogen is nothing but the excess amount of glucose is stored in the form of glycogen. So this thyroid hormone helps for the breakdown of glycogenolysis, and it also accelerates the gluconeogenesis. Now the action on fat metabolism. So this thyroxine decreases the fat storage. The action on plasma and liver cells. The thyroxine decreases the blood cholesterol, phospholipids as well as triglycerides in the plasma. So in case of hyposecretion of thyroxine, the cholesterol level in the plasma increases, thereby it results in atherosclerosis. Thyroxine also increases the deposition of fat in the liver, leading to fatty liver. Action on vitamin metabolism. Thyroxine increases the formation of many enzymes. For the formation of enzymes, vitamins are utilized. So there is vitamin deficiency during hypersecretion of thyroxine. Next, action on body temperature. Thyroid hormone increases the heat production in the body, thereby increasing the basal metabolic rate. Thereby, it is termed as thyroid hormone-induced thermogenesis. So during hypersecretion of thyroxine, the body temperature increases greatly, which results in excessive sweating. And the next is action on growth. So increase in the thyroxine secretion accelerates the growth by the body, especially in the growing children. Lack of thyroxine arrests the growth, so the children looks short, and this is because of early closure of epiphysis. So the height of the individual may be slightly less than the normal person, and that is common in hypothyroidism, decreased secretion of thyroid hormones. So the thyroxine promotes growth as well as development of the brain during the fetal life as well as the first year of postnatal life. So this deficiency of thyroid hormone during this period may lead to mental retardation. Action on body weight. Increase in thyroxine secretion decreases the body weight as well as fat storage, but decrease in the thyroxine secretion increases the body weight because of fat deposition. So the body weight increases in case of hypothyroidism, but decreases during hyperthyroidism. Action on blood. Thyroxine accelerates erythropoietic activity and increases the blood volume. So this is one of the important factors which is necessary for the erythropoiesis. So in case of hyperthyroidism, normally it increases the erythropoietic activity, so polycythemia occur in hyperthyroidism. Polycythemia is increase in the number of red blood cells. And the next action is on cardiovascular system. So this thyroid hormone increases the heart rate as well as the force of contraction of the heart, and it also increases the blood volume, whereby the blood flow by the influence of thyroxine hormone, cardiac output increases. So this in turn increases the blood pressure. In hyperthyroidism, the heart may become weak because normally this increases the heart rate and force of contraction. If the secretion increases, it again further increases the activity, so the heart becomes overload. So this leads to weakness, and it also causes protein catabolism. And thyroxine also causes vasodilatation by increasing the metabolic activity. Now the action on respiratory system. Again, the thyroxine hormone is responsible for the increase in the rate and force of respiration. The increased metabolic rate, which is caused by the thyroxine hormone, increases the demand for oxygen as well as the formation of excessive carbon dioxide. So the excess carbon dioxide is termed as hypercapnia, as well as decreased oxygen is hypoxia. So the factors hypoxia and hypercapnia these factors stimulate the respiratory centers, which helps to increase the rate and force of respiration. So as we have seen in all videos, the excess carbon dioxide combines with water, and it releases carbon dioxide binds with the water to form the carbonic acid, which is unstable. So it again splits into bicarbonate and hydrogen ion concentration. So increase in hydrogen ion concentration is very sensitive to the chemoreceptors. So the chemoreceptors get stimulated, thereby it directly stimulates the respiratory centers, and which in turn increases the rate and force of respiration. The next action is on gastrointestinal tract. Thyroxine increases the appetite as well as thereby food intake also increases. And it also increases the secretions and the movements of the gastrointestinal tract. So if the secretion increases, so increase in thyroxine secretion causes diarrhea, because there is more and more motility of the gastrointestinal tract causes diarrhea. But the opposite reaction occurs in case of lack of thyroxine, that causes constipation, that decreases the digestive secretion as well as movements of the gastrointestinal tract. So the action on central nervous system. This thyroid hormones helps to promote the growth and development of the brain during fetal life, as well as during the first few years of postnatal life. So the thyroid deficiency, if it occurs in case of infants, which results in an abnormal development of synapses, defective myelination, as well as mental retardation. This also increases the blood flow to the brain. So the babies gets thyroxine hormone, even though baby's thyroxine hormone is deficient, it gets thyroxine hormone from the mother during fetal life. So by birth the baby looks normal, but all the symptoms develop later because there is lack of thyroxine hormones after birth. So hypersecretion, in case of hypersecretion, there is excessive stimulation of central nervous system. So the person is likely to have extreme nervousness, sometimes develop psychoneurotic problems such as anxiety, complexes, excess worries, or paranoid thoughts. That is, the person may think without justification, so other people are plotting or conspiring against them. So hyposecretion leads to lethargy as well as somnolence, that is excessive sleep. And finally, attacks over the skeletal muscles. This thyroxine is essential for the normal activity of skeletal muscles. If there is slight increase in thyroxine level, that makes the muscles to work more vigorously, but hypersecretion hypersecretion causes in weakness of the muscles due to catabolism of proteins. So these are the functions of thyroid gland. Then next will be about the regulation of secretion of thyroid hormones. So this the thyroid hormones, namely the thyroxine, T4, T3 and the calcitonin, is secreted by the thyroid gland, and how it is regulated in normal. So the secretion of thyroid hormones is controlled by anterior pituitary gland as well as hypothalamus through the feedback mechanism. So many factors are involved in this regulation of thyroid secretion. So the first one is role of pituitary gland. Thyroid stimulating hormone. So the thyroid stimulating hormone is secreted by the anterior pituitary, and this is a major factor that regulates the synthesis as well as release of thyroid hormones. So the actions of thyroid stimulating hormone. This thyroid stimulating hormone TSH increases the number and size of the follicular cells of thyroid gland, the development of thyroid follicles, thyroglobulin secretion into the follicles, thereby it helps for this formation of thyroxine and iodination of tyrosine and coupling to form hormones. Next is the role of hypothalamus. Here the hypothalamus, pituitary is controlled by the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus regulates thyroid secretion by controlling TSH through thyrotrophic releasing hormone TRH. So from hypothalamus, TRH is transported through the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal vessels to the anterior pituitary. After it reaches the pituitary gland, the TRH causes the release of thyroid stimulating hormone. And the next is feedback control. So the thyroid hormones regulates their own secretion through negative feedback. So this secretion itself, hormones itself controls the secretion by inhibiting the release of thyroid releasing hormone from the hypothalamus as well as thyroid stimulating hormone from the anterior pituitary. So you can see this chart. So there are other factors that increases the secretion as well as decreases the secretion. So if the secretion increases, it has to be inhibited by the following factors, namely the excessive iodine intake, stress, somatostatin, glucocorticoids and dopamine. All these factors inhibits the secretion, thereby the secretion decreases. But there are some other factors that increases the secretion. So if the secretion is low, these factors get stimulated and the secretion increases, namely the low metabolic rate, leptin from adipose tissue as well as alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is from the pituitary, which increases the release of TRH as well as the synthesis of TSH. So applied aspects, we'll see about the disorders of thyroid gland. So the first one is hyperthyroidism. Hyper meaning increased. Hyperthyroidism is the condition in which there is increased secretion of. So now let us see about the causes for hyperthyroidism. So the hyperthyroidism is caused by two main diseases. One is Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune disease in which there is increase in the number of cells, thereby it causes increased secretion of thyroid hormones. And the second reason is thyroid adenoma. So this localized tumor in the thyroid also increases the secretion of thyroid hormones. So now we'll say about the signs and symptoms of hyperthyroidism. So the first important is intolerance to heat, because the body produces more and more amount of heat due to increased metabolic rate. Normally this thyroxine hormone increases the basal metabolic rate. If the secretion increases, it further increases the heat production. So there is intolerance to heat. And the next is increased sweating due to vasodilatation, decreased body weight due to fat mobilization, or else protein catabolism. All these causes decrease in the body weight. And diarrhea occurs because of increased movements of the gastrointestinal tract. If the secretion increases, it also further increases, thereby diarrhea occurs. And because of protein catabolism, the muscles will go for weakness. And in the nervous system, if secretion increases, nervousness, extreme fatigue, inability to sleep, and mild tremor occur in the hands. And so psychoneurotic symptoms such as hyperexcitability, extreme anxiety or worries, toxic goiter. So goiter is nothing but the enlargement of the thyroid gland, and it consists of two types. One is toxic and non-toxic. So the toxic goiter occurs because of hyperthyroidism. And the next is oligomenorrhea or amenorrhea. The absence of menstruation is termed as amenorrhea. And exophthalmos is protrusion of eyeball. And polycythemia occurs because polycythemia is increase in red blood cells. So this increase in the RBC occurs because of erythropoietic activity. So that if the secretion increases, it also further increases the erythropoietic activity, thereby there is increase in the number of RBC production. So this causes polycythemia. And on the cardiovascular system, it increases the heart rate, so tachycardia, atrial fibrillation occurs, systolic hypertension, and sometimes cardiac failure also occurs due to hyperthyroidism. So these are the signs and symptoms of hyperthyroidism. And the next is hypothyroidism. Hypo meaning decreased secretion. So decreased secretion of thyroid hormones is termed as hypothyroidism. So hypothyroidism leads to myxedema in adults and cretinism in children. So both these conditions are because of hypothyroidism, but in adults it is termed as myxedema. If it occurs in children, it is cretinism. So first we will see about the condition called myxedema. It is nothing but the hypothyroidism in adults, which is characterized by edematous, generalized edematous appearance. So the causes for myxedema is it occurs because of the diseases of the thyroid gland, or else the genetic disorder or iodine deficiency, or else deficiency of thyroid stimulating hormone or thyrotrophic releasing hormone. All these occurs in case of adults, and that condition is mixed edema. So now we'll see about the signs and symptoms of mixed edema. So the special feature of this disorder is an edematous appearance throughout the body, and it is associated with the following symptoms: swelling of the face, bagginess under the eyes, and edema is non-pitting type, and atherosclerosis also develops because of the hardening of the walls of the arteries due to the accumulation of fat deposition. And atherosclerosis produces arteriosclerosis, which refers to the thickening and stiffening of the arterial wall. So this atherosclerosis may cause hypertension and hypothyroidism. Now the other features of hypothyroidism in adults, you can look at the picture. The face looks like swelling, edematous. So the other features are anemia, fatigue, muscular sluggishness, extreme somnolence, that is sleeping up to 14 to 16 hours a day. Menorrhagia is prolonged bleeding for sometimes for 7 days, and polymenorrhea, meaning frequent menstruation for once in every 21 days or less. So this occurs because of hypothyroidism. And decreased cardiovascular function, there will be a reduction in the rate and force of contraction of the heart rate, thereby the cardiac output and the blood volume gets decreased. And the next is increase in the body weight because of deposition of fat, and constipation occurs because of the decreased motility of gastrointestinal tract, mental sluggishness, depressed hair growth, scaliness of the skin, and frog-like husky voice, and cold intolerance. And the next is cretinism. Cretinism is the hypothyroidism which occurs in children, which is characterized by stunted growth. The causes for this is due to the congenital absence of thyroid gland, or else genetic disorder, or even sometimes lack of diet in the children. So the features: a newborn baby with thyroid deficiency may appear entirely normal because the baby gets thyroxine from the mother itself, but after a few weeks of birth, the baby starts developing all the signs through the sluggishness movement, croaking sound while crying. All these occurs because the baby doesn't get thyroxine hormone, because during fetal life it gets from the mother's blood, so escape from during fetal life. So, and if it is not treated immediately, the baby will be mentally retarded permanently. And the second feature is skeletal growth gets more affected. So there is stunted growth with bloated body. The tongue becomes big and it hangs down with dripping of saliva. So this obstructs the swallowing and breathing. So the difference between cretinism and dwarfism. So cretinism is entirely different from the dwarfism. Dwarfism because of the growth hormone from the pituitary. So in cretinism, there is mental retardation and different parts of the body are disproportionate. But in case of dwarfism, the development of nervous system is normal and the parts of the body are proportionate. Reproductive function is affected in cretinism, but it is normal in case of dwarfism. And the next is goiter. It is nothing but the enlargement of the thyroid gland. It occurs both in hypothyroidism as well as in hyperthyroidism. So in hyperthyroidism it is toxic goiter, but in hypothyroidism it is non-toxic. This toxic is due to the increased secretion by thyroid tumor, but non-toxic enlargement without increase in the hormonal secretion, and that is termed as hypothyroid goiter. Based on the cause, the non-toxic goiter is classified into two types: endemic colloid goiter and idiopathic non-toxic. Endemic is the non-toxic caused by iodine deficiency. It is also known as iodine deficiency goiter. So this iodine deficiency occurs when the intake is less than 50 micrograms per day. Idiopathic is non-toxic goiter is the goiter due to unknown cause. Enlargement of thyroid gland occurs even without any iodine deficiency. So the exact cause is unknown, idiopathic meaning unknown. So this is suggested due to the thyroiditis and deficiency of enzymes. So the thyroid function test includes the measurement of plasma level of T3 and T4, measurement of TRH and TSH, and the measurement of basal metabolic rate. So the treatment for thyroid diseases: in case of hyperthyroidism, the drugs, anti-thyroid drugs, which suppresses the secretion of thyroid hormones, is given. That includes the thiocyanate, thiourulines, and high concentration of inorganic iodines. If this fails, they'll go for surgical removal, and that condition is termed as thyroidectomy. And for treatment for hypothyroidism, so only treatment is administration of thyroid extract or else ingestion of pure thyroxine in the form of tablets orally. So that's all about the functions, regulations, and disorders of thyroid gland. Thank you.